Well, a big hello and welcome to the Leadership Liftoff podcast, a leadership podcast for teams under 100 people. And in a moment, we're going to hop into a conversation with Luiz, one of the co-founders of the GigU app. He is brilliant and I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I think there's just going to be so much to take away from this conversation with him. Hey, before we get going into it, this is a brand new podcast. I would love your help to get the word out there. If you like it, share it, subscribe, comment, rate and review, do all the amazing things. And I hope this really helps you. Enjoy. Well, Luiz, welcome to the podcast. It's really good to have you. I've been reading a little bit about your story and about GigU, and I'm very excited to get to know a little bit more. And so, Luiz, take me back to when you first started GigU. Where did this dream or where did this idea come from?
First of all, thank you for having me, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be here and to get to know you a little bit better. But going back to the past, it started with the question that a very good friend of mine and now my co-founder asked me. And we were discussing different business ideas. And basically one day he said, "Do you have time for a coffee?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So he asked me, "Have you ever thought about how's the life of an Uber driver?" And at the time I said, "Wow, no, I've never thought about that. What do you mean?" And he said, "You know what? I see all the time these new technologies and companies emerging, trying to solve the problems that we have as consumers. Like we want to move to place A to place B. We want like our food to arrive to our doorsteps, but no one's thinking about this huge workforce that is growing, like with the adoption of these technologies. And I think that there's something in there for us to explore." So we created a survey and basically hopped into more than 100 Uber rides in Rio, where we started. We're from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. So we started there, and it was mind-blowing how little we knew about their reality.
Yeah, I heard a little bit about your story where in the early days, if I'm not wrong, you set up these centers for Uber drivers where they could come and relax, get all the different amenities that they needed. And the thing I really appreciate about your story is that you were listening to the Uber drivers directly rather than assuming you knew what they needed.
Yes. Well, we started, the first solution that we came up with was trying to rent underused parking lots because people were using more of these technologies than their own cars. So parking lots, they were suffering, they were struggling. So we thought, why don't we solve one problem with the other? These guys need some sort of physical structure to get by during the day. So we rented underused parking lots. We built this infrastructure where they could lunch, meet their friends. We have a little car wash. We washed many cars, me and my co-founders. We had even a barber shop, and then other companies started to join. Yeah, it was crazy, but like a little repair shop, a company that sold like cell phone adapters and stuff like that. So we saw all these companies, they wanted to be in close contact with them. But the best part of that period of our company was that we had lunch every day with them, every single day. I mean, you won't find anyone at Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, you name it, that has many meals as we did with those guys. So we got to know their struggles and their pains like deeply. So it gave us an enormous advantage when we had to pivot from that model.
How much of your success do you owe to that stage of being able to have all those conversations and have those lunches?
I would say 90%. Nothing would ever happen if we haven't spent that much time in close contact with them. And it was this close contact with them that basically helped us do all these other digital tools that we created afterwards. Because during the pandemic, we had to close all the physical locations, right? We had 12 locations in Rio. We're opening the first 2 locations in São Paulo, and the pandemic hit. We had to close it all. And basically, we reached our investors, said, "So our business is over. Do you want the money back? What do we do?" And they said, no, guys, reinvent yourself. So we believe in serving this huge community, and you guys, you're gonna do something. And we came up first with a solution that was focused into safety and community. And this was only possible because we heard all the complaints that they were doing every single day about what they were facing during these long work hours.
And so fast forward a bit. So when did you first start? Was it 2018, if I'm not wrong?
2018, yeah.
Okay. And so what does GigU look like today?
So GigU is an app that improves the performance and safety of gig workers. In other words, what we do is every time these platforms offer a ride or a delivery for them, we analyze that information, and in real time, we say if it's a good one or bad one for them according to their own cost structure. So each gig worker, they have different cost structures, right? If you're renting a car, if you're leasing a car, if your car is fully paid or whatever. So we tailor, we help the matchmaking help in a more beneficial way for them. First of all, we help them understand their cost structure. So this is your cost structure. This is how much a mile costs for you. This is how much an hour costs for you. If you work below that threshold, you're not making money. And the number one reason that gig workers give up is because they're not making money. They see a lot of money coming in, but they spend a lot of money as well in maintenance and fuel and insurance and so on and so forth. So we help them be more effective and more efficient in this choosing. And basically, we increase their profitability by 30% on average.
Wow.
It probably happened to you, right? When you're in an Uber or a Lyft, when you're approaching a destination, you see the driver receive another offer, and they stop looking at the road and start looking at the phone, right? You've seen that before, right? They're doing math.
Oh, absolutely.
They're doing math because they need to do math. But the thing is that they usually have like 6 to 8 seconds to make a decision. It's impossible to do that while driving. It's not even safe. So this is one angle that we also help them to drive safer. But there's another one that we transform their cell phones into a dashboard camera, so they don't have to buy an external camera, do the installation and so on. In America, they're not expensive as they are in other countries like ours, like Brazil. But this feature actually gives them a lot of power because it basically shows evidence of what's happening in their work environment, right?
That's amazing. I love hearing through your story just the heart of service, I think, behind all of this, and the genuine hope to make it a much better experience for those drivers. And it's amazing seeing how that has really been the North Star for you guys to do whatever you can to make it a great experience for those people. So that's very cool. And it's an incredible service that you have. I love it.
Thank you.
You know, I think I'm Indian born, and when I was in Toronto, and I would use Ubers all the time, and I think about so many immigrants that have moved there, right? They're trying to make an honest living, and typically Uber or one of those rideshare apps are the first thing that it's easy to get a job from that, and you see the struggles that are already inherent in people choosing to be Uber drivers. And so just this small service that can help alleviate some of the pressure and the stress. And like you're saying, they're on the road. They've got to make decisions fast. They've got to run themselves like a business in some ways for this to make sense for them. And so it's a very cool niche you found yourself. I really like it.
Thank you.
So
yeah, I think that we got hooked to the problem, and we got hooked to it. And I think that we didn't give up during the pandemic because we felt the responsibility of improving their lives. Really, I think that if we didn't have that much, that's why I answered 90% was due to that. Not only because of the knowledge that we acquired during those early years, but also because working in close contact with your users basically helped you understand their pain so much that it becomes yours, right? So if you don't solve it, it's almost like you're not solving your own problems.
That's amazing. I hope GigU keeps going forward and helping a lot of people. So, tell me about your team now. So this is a leadership podcast. So I'd love to hear from you. So what's the scope of your team these days? Your app now exists in the Bay Area as well as Brazil. So what does team look like for you? What's the team structure? How does that work?
So we were always like small team. We started last year. We started this year because I'm already thinking about 2026. But we started this year with 23 people, and we only scaled 10 people during this whole year. But we
Mm-hmm.
are starting 2026 thinking about hiring 10 more people at least. So
Wow.
we're scaling fast, but and this whole agenda of 2025, what we most discussed during our beginning of the year offsite was we need to change our organization. So have you ever seen kids playing soccer?
Yeah.
Like toddlers? All the toddlers go wherever
Yeah.
the
I
ball
feel
is,
like I know
right?
what you're gonna say. Yes.
So we thought we need to change from, and there was a slide that was just like that. We need to change from this to this. And it was a professional
Yes.
soccer team playing. So you need to keep your positions and understand that, okay, you pass the ball to another team and it's their problem. You're not going to be there to work things out. So we had a very good, we're successful into building this mentality into people. And the moment that I saw this was when I figured that a guy from our marketing team, he was interviewing someone. And I said, what was that person that you were talking to? He said, oh yeah, it's probably is going to be our new designer that we're hiring. I
Mm-hmm.
said, oh, cool, we're hiring a designer. And I said, yeah, we're hiring a designer. And I remember that I thought, he never told me we're hiring a designer, but it's so cool that he feel like this, like he's empowered to do so. And I said, okay, good work. Let me know if it works out. But some
Mm.
part of me was like, things are things getting out of my hand, or is he just doing exactly what we told during the offsite? So
Mm-hmm.
it was cool to see all the heads of the company evolving into that direction during this year.
And that's a pretty typical stage of organization, right? Where first everything's run through you, but then really to grow and for GigU to be what it needs to be, you have to let go of control.
Yeah, actually, this week I told one of my co-founders. So we're four co-founders in total, but two work remotely, and Pedro, the one who's my high school friend, he works at the office with me every single day. And I said, you know what I just saw? There's a meeting going on over there with a bunch of people, and I have no idea what this meeting's about, and I love it. It was like one of like an epiphany. So wow, so cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, okay, so one of the frictions that you've seen in the past has been that maybe okay, you as a founder can end up being a bottleneck even if you don't intend for it to be. Tell me even right now in your team, what do you feel is some real pain points when it comes to your team?
You nailed it. Is something that always I was always upset was this feeling that I might be becoming a bottleneck, and I thought I don't need to replicate myself. I need people to scale their own teams so that they can make the decisions, and they can come up to me at any moment, and with doubts and questions, and this is okay,
Mm-hmm.
this is awesome, but they need to have the capacity and authority to do things by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that we did was basically talk to each head of their work as it was at the moment and what their work would look like in the next 6 months or 12 months. And so we helped them envision what kind of team they needed. For instance, our customer support team, all of our customer support team were ex Uber or gig workers, all of them.
Mm. It's a
So
good move.
as I always say, our customer support is our superpower. So
Mm-hmm.
we had a lot of trouble trying to help this guy who used to be a gig worker now understand that they need to switch hats and become a manager, right? A whole other team. And I remember that one day, Peter and I, we said to him, you know what? You have a new OKR. Your new OKR is you need to take a vacation.
Hmm.
If you cannot take a vacation, your team is not well structured. So we worked closely with him to help him like hire people, train people, and being able to take a vacation. So it was awesome when it happened.
That's so great. It really sounds like you and your co-founders have taken the role of a coach, and you're working with your team leaders and say, how can we help you win? What have you found? So obviously, you and your co-founders hold us so closely to your heart, the success, the mission, and the vision of your organization. How did you, or what have you found works in helping your team leaders also grasp that vision and that passion that you have?
It's something that the other day someone asked me that. So how did you build your culture? And I said, if I had to write a book about it, I wouldn't know where to start because a lot of things happen just naturally through working with them. So some people that are still in the company used to work with us on the physical locations, on the one-stop shops, right? And they saw us like car washing. They saw us serving lunch for them. They saw us doing all this stuff. Then we passed the baton to them, and then they started to do that. But we were doing all of this together. And so these people also helped a lot to bring in this get your hands dirty. If you want to do something, just get on and do it. And the feedback that we got from users always help. So when we have to become like a digital company, we had to think about rituals as well, right? So during the pandemic, most people were working remotely and said, wow, how can we keep everybody engaged? So we came up with a lot of things, and some things ended up not doing any result, but two things ended up doing great result about it. One is called the toast. So every Thursday we do a toast where it's optional. You can go, you cannot go, or you can go just to watch, but you toast positive things that happen in your week. It can be personal or professional.
Very
But we
cool.
started doing that ourselves. So I want to toast Raul, my head of marketing, Raul, because he helped me making this presentation that I need to do to an investor. And I also want to toast to my mom. She did some exams, and her exams were great. So by having this environment where you can talk about professional things and personal things, it really got people together. And at the end, the balls, it is going to sound strange, but I'm translating literally how we say it in Portuguese. But is the ping pong ball ceremony. So we have this
Okay.
two like vases, like huge structures that we have in the office. They are filled with ping pong balls because every ping pong ball is a story of a user.
Wow.
So everyone is encouraged to bring a story. You tell a story of a user that impacted you somehow and how what we're building made a difference in their lives. And you name that ball. So this ball is going to be named John, and I'm going to put it in a vase. And put it in a vase, everybody claps. And when you see these ping pong balls like piling up, every time we're talking about the user inside the office, many times this happened. We say, wait a minute, guys, what is good for them? Because they are there all the time, right? Their stories are there, so they are there as well.
Whose idea was this? This is brilliant.
Think it was mine, but actually, nothing is just by one person. I mean, I talked
Of
about
course.
it. This is something that resonated with me. It's so strange, but I was traveling with my wife, and her mom was sick, so she decided to stop by a church to light a candle for her mom, and I kept on thinking, why do we light candles in churches? And then it hit me. Said, oh, it's the materialization of your what you're asking, what you're wishing for. And then I started to read about that, but I forgot about that. And there I was reading a management book, and I heard that these guys used to have an empty chair at their conference room, at their most important conference room. There was always an empty chair that represented the user or the customer. And I found it brilliant, and it matched the what I was thinking about the candle. And I talked to my head of marketing and said, "What do you think about that?" But I was skeptical. When I was done speaking, it was gonna sound like a weird idea. And he said, "That's awesome." And he built it the first version of the vase thing, and it started like that. So It's cool.
That's amazing. So in the coming year, you're going to be looking to grow your team by about 10 people. How are you strategically thinking through that and the hiring choices you're going to make? Yeah, I'm curious to know what does the next year look like?
So the most important hires that we're going to do are developers. And I had the great luck to meet an amazing guy during an event in San Francisco this year in May. I was in San Francisco for an event and I met this guy who's also Brazilian, but he lives in the States and Canada for most of his life. Sometimes he even
Hmm.
struggles to speak Portuguese. Uh, but I met him and I said, look, can you help me scale my developers team? So this is his mission. So we hired this guy that is basically doing all the things that my co-founder and CTO cannot do, which is interviewing and like resume
Hmm.
selection. So Thiago, this guy, I say he's doing all of this work and he's doing a phenomenal job so far. So we have a lot of potential people to hire like early January. We're probably gonna pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, that's very cool. And how do you know which staff members to prioritize, or how do you know out of every, because the needs are always going to be there. How do you know what's the most important team to get next?
This is tough. So the developers team is always behind because it's always needing more hands because we receive a lot of feedback from our users saying, I thought about this new feature. What if GigU do like help me out figure out which zones of the city I shouldn't go because they're dangerous.
Mm,
And then
interesting.
I talked to my co-founder, say, Becco, have you thought about that? Imagine like that if you're receiving an Uber ride, but it's destined to a dangerous zone in the city. This happens a lot in Brazil. And Gigi would alert them. And he said,
Hmm.
yeah, it's a nice feature. I thought about that as well, but I don't have time to do that. So we kept on the backlog of good ideas was growing, and we thought let's stop. And it has a lot to do with the directional for next year, which is totally different
Hmm.
from the directional from last year, the 2025. So the direction from
Hmm.
2025 was let's stop playing soccer like toddlers and become more like a professional team, right? So
Very good.
as you probably know, we Brazilians love soccer and we make soccer analogies all the time, and this one really stuck. So every OKR, the teams ended up coming up with some soccer analogy for the OKRs, the quarters OKRs. But next year, they thought we have to think differently. So in terms of the company health is different as well. We started when we were finishing 2024, we were low on cash. So we needed to
Hmm.
succeed fast, not to go under, basically. So we entered 2025 nearly breaking even. By February, we were break even and we kept on scaling. It was an amazing year. We tripled in revenue this year. So we had
Hmm.
now money and we didn't have to think about going back to investors to keep the company afloat. So with the money, we started to hire more people as the year went along. But now is a different moment. So we don't have to think about money anymore. We need to think about our solution. How can GigU become what we want it to be? So we're taking a step back and we came up with the analogy of like pretty much everything that game Clash of Clans,
Hmm.
the one to build a castle or something. So it's basically
Hmm.
time to go back to the castle, train new army, sharpen our spears and swords, improve the defense, which is now from wood, and build like a stone wall, stuff like that. So we need to look inside before we can go and conquer new territories. Even though we just launched in the US, as you said before, so we launched in the US 4 months ago. Instead of just keep on pushing forward, we're taking a step back, assessing everything that we need. So to the US, what we need to the US? Oh, in the US, we need one of us is moving to the US. So we need to figure that out first. How does that going to operate? Oh, and we need to hire someone that will help us build a community in the US. So we're finding that person. So we're doing basically a diagnosis of the company instead
Hmm.
of just keep on rushing, there's a value of the company that is in every race, speed is extremely important, but you have to remember to tie your shoes before running. So
Very good. Very good. I think there's a lot of wisdom to how you're operating because the temptation is to go keep going fast and do that, but sometimes you're right. You need to solidify what you already have so that you can go fast in the future. Okay, so with so your team has scaled quite a bit. What's a big lesson you've learned? You know, going from it was four co-founders to now a growing team. What's a lesson you learned which you wish you didn't have to?
so many. How long do we got? I mean, there's a lot of things that when you're in that moment of growth and you need to hire people, you have you have the basically the urge to hire people as they appear. And sometimes when you think about speed, you don't make smart decisions. So you just hire the first person or the second person that you're interviewing, and you ended up hiring bad people. And there are a lot of people, I see many founders that do the hire fast, fire fast kind of attitude. But I think that there's always a cost in that, and I don't mean like a monetary cost. There's cost of there's an investment that you make, like training them, going through the whole onboarding process, and all of that stuff. When you try to build that mentality of hire fast, fire fast, you ended up doing a lot of do-overs, and it's a waste of time. So I would say that in many situations, I wish I didn't hire people that we hired just because we needed desperately that position. I wish I would just said, okay, this is still not a good fit for us. Let's try to interview more people.
There's a lot of wisdom in that, in the sense of a bad leader is sometimes worse than no leader at all, or a bad employee is worse than no employee at all, which is messes with the morale of the team, messes with so many things beyond just finances. So as we wrap up, I'd be curious if you were to speak to someone, let's just say in your shoes about 2 years ago, what's one piece of advice you would give to them?
I think it will go in the same direction that we just mentioned. Sometimes when you're in a hurry, you tend to make very bad decisions. And so a lot of things happen in our story during this journey in this company. We didn't talk about that, but we got a lawsuit by Uber in Brazil, and
Wow.
in many situations, you have to like have a very steady position to not only to yourself but to the team, and you have to be able to provide them the safety that they want because they look up to you and they look up and say, "Is everything going to be fine? Am I gonna have my paycheck next month, right?" So, and when you're in this sort of crisis moment, if you're not like 100% focused in what you're doing and thinking about like external things, you ended up making bad decisions. This happened a lot in the life of founders because we have a pressure from investors, we have pressure from our families, we have pressure from within the company. And if we don't like, if we're not able to absorb all of that and basically be felt like, okay, we're good. This is still solid. Everybody can do their jobs and everything's going to be fine. And I think that in many situations, I dedicated a lot of my energy to that, right? So when I put my head in the pillow many times, I was like, am I lying to everybody? Because I don't know if everything's going to be fine. I'm not sure. I mean, and I remember that we were always very transparent in terms of where the company is to the team, and said, guys, we need to work something out here. If we don't raise money, we're gonna be dead in X months. If we don't turn around the company, if we don't break even, we're gonna be dead in X months. And we're always very transparent with that. But besides being transparent, we need to also be very positive, right? Otherwise, you don't want people from your team to be looking for a new job while they're still working in your company. So you need to balance both things. sometimes we were just transparent and we didn't have that much caution to that other regard to make people feel safe, make people still be optimistic about what we're building. So there's this balance, and I think it swinged a little bit 2 years ago when everything was making this huge switch from us.
Wow, that's brilliant, Luis. I think you guys are brilliant leaders, and I think people who are in your organization are very lucky to have you guys as their leaders. I think you exhibit so many exemplary values: transparency, consistency, empathy, all such amazing things. Really inspiring and incredible to hear from you. And so, thank you so much for taking time.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And this was really awesome. I really appreciate it. So, thank you.
It was great. Thank you very much. See you next time in San Francisco.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that amazing conversation with Luiz. If it helped you, if you found value in it, would you share, like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time.